Hello, I'm here with some comments and tips about good handbell style when ringing with eBells. Here's an eBell. This is one I made for my own use, so it's a slightly different colour from the official ones, but the design is the same. And here is a real handbell, which we'll look at first. This is the treble of my set of 10, which are a size 15 in C, Whitechapel bells. So this is a size 6 bell. The note is E. It weighs 285 grams, and in comparison, the eBell weighs 215 grams. So even though the eBells are weighted with a steel disc inside them, they are still a bit lighter than real handbells. But more importantly, the way they strike is completely different. The dynamics are different, and as we'll see, it's important to make the effort to use the same style with eBells that you do with real handbells. And if you're learning handbell ringing with eBells, developing a good style will make it much easier to transfer to real handbells when the time comes. So let's have a look at ringing style with the handbell. See that I'm holding it with my fingers wrapped firmly but not too tightly around the handle. When the bell is down at backstroke, the thumb is just away from the cap, but the index finger is in contact with the cap there. And when I ring up at handstroke, there's some motion of the forearm and then a little motion of the wrist, and the cap of the bell ends up resting on the thumb. And the little jerk as the cap hits the thumb is what makes the bell strike. So down at backstroke, up at handstroke. Down the backstroke, and then usually it's comfortable to rest the hand gently on the thigh after the bell has rung a backstroke, especially when ringing larger bells. It's tiring to keep your arm in the air the whole time. It's more comfortable just to rest it. And after ringing the handstroke, notice that the bell is slightly past vertical, it's tilting slightly backwards, and it's important to keep the clapper leaning towards the lower lip of the bell here. If you end up with the clapper more towards the other edge of the bell, then you can get double clappering when you ring the backstroke. And what you find with real handbells is that unless you use a style similar to this one, you don't get a nice clean strike, and you don't get enough control over when the bell is ringing. Sometimes you see people holding the handle a bit too far away from the cap. The problem with this is that the handle is a bit flexible. If you ring like this, you can see the bell is flopping about. You don't have such good control over when it strikes, and it's just not a good way to ring. So keep your forefinger and thumb up close to the cap, and then you've got a nice positive action. So let's see how the eBells ring. Here I'm using Ringing Room, but you could be using Handbell Stadium or a neck simulator. I'm holding the eBell in the same way as I do a real handbell. Because the handles are completely rigid, it is possible to hold them further back up the handle away from the cap and still feel that you're getting a positive swing, but it's not a good habit to get into. You need to keep your hand where it would be on a real bell. You do have to be a little bit careful not to accidentally press the buttons, and I would actually keep my thumb on the handle rather than away from the cap to reduce the risk of a button press. But the action is still the same. You'll see that I'm the same action. The bell ends up tilted slightly backwards, and then after ringing the backstroke, I can rest my hand on my thigh. So that's a good ringing style. Because the eBells don't have the same dynamics as a real handbell, it is possible to get a sound out of them in ways that would not cause a real handbell to strike. The eBell contains a motion sensor, which is measuring a combination of position and acceleration. If you tilt the bell very slowly, then when it gets to a certain angle, the bell will strike. Now, if you move the real handbell like that, it will not make a sound. And again, you tilt it slowly downwards at a certain point, the bell will strike. It's also possible to make them ring with very small jerky movements like this. See the angle I'm moving is very small, not cause a real bell, but it can be done with eBells. Although to do that, it would rather costly and it would be very tiring on the hand and wrist to do that for a long period. It's even possible to make an eBell ring by twisting it. You can make the motion sensor go upside down and it triggers the strike point. I don't think anyone's doing this, but it's just another illustration of the way that they behave differently from real handbells. So the answer is to develop a style with your eBell that's as close as possible to a real handbell action, and that will make it easier to transfer back to real handbells when the time comes. One other thing about eBells is that when using them, of course, you're sitting at your computer, which often means sitting at your desk or table. If you're sitting right up close to the desk, as you normally would when using your computer, then you just don't have room for your arms to do a proper spread, and you can end up doing like this. Now Tyrannosaurus with his tiny arm. And yes, the bells not tiring and again, it wouldn't transfer well to real handbells. So push your chair away from your desk. That's why we've put 2-meter long cables on the eBells. There's plenty of room, plenty of cable length. Push your chair back, make sure you can do a normal handbell action without putting the bells on the desk, and then you'll be developing good habits, which will be good